All right, so today we're going to dive into a combat system that was engineered for one thing and one thing only: brutal, real-world survival. It's called Tetsuryoku-Ryu, which translates to Iron Force style. This isn't about sport, it's not about trophies. This is combat engineering designed for the messy, unfiltered reality of a violent street encounter. So let's get into it and break down the science. And this quote, man, it just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the philosophy here. We are not talking about a sport. The whole point isn't to rack up points or impress some judges. It's to end a legitimate threat with an efficiency that is frankly disturbing to watch. It's all about making sure you are the one who gets to walk away when all the rules have just gone out the window.
So, to really get why this art even exists, you first have to understand the problem it was designed to solve. And that problem is the huge, and I mean dangerous, difference between a regulated match and the absolute chaos of street violence.
Just take a look at this. On one side, you've got sport. You know, referees, padded floors, weight classes, rules that everyone agrees on. It's a test of skill, for sure, but in a controlled lab. And then you have survival. No rules, maybe multiple attackers, hard, unforgiving concrete, and the consequences, well, they can last a lifetime. Tetsuryoku-Ryu, it lives and breathes only on that survival side, period.
Okay, so the whole system is built on two, let's call them undeniable truths that just don't exist in sport. First up, the concrete variable. Look, in a ring with mats, going to the ground is a strategy. On the street, if you end up on the pavement, especially with an attacker's buddies around, you're in a terrible, terrible spot. So the fight has to stay standing. And second, the glove delusion. Boxers train to defend against these big, padded gloves. But a bare fist, well, that's a whole different animal. It's a smaller, harder weapon that can slip right through a traditional guard and connect with bone-on-bone, fight-ending impact.
So, if that's the problem, what's the solution? You know, it's not about being bigger or stronger or faster. The entire system is built on one single scientific principle, a kind of biomechanical cheat code that works against the human body itself.
And it all comes down to this one single concept: kuzushi, the balance break. The idea is so simple but so profound. You don't fight their strength head-on, you fight their balance. The goal isn't to get into a slugfest, trading blows, no. It's to disrupt their structure, their foundation so completely that the fight is basically over before they even know what hit them.
And this right here is the magic number. 45 degrees. Turns out, this is the angle where the human skeleton is just at its absolute weakest. Think about it. We're built like tanks moving forwards and backwards, pretty strong. But when you apply force at that 45-degree angle to our structure, the whole thing just wants to collapse. This is the key that unlocks everything.
This quote just sums it up perfectly. If someone comes at you with a straight, linear attack, you can block it like a wall. If it's a big, circular attack, you can often evade it. But that 45-degree angle, that's the open door. It's the path of least resistance to just completely dismantle someone's ability to fight you, and it doesn't matter how big or strong they are.
Okay, so you've got this core principle. It's brilliant. But how do you actually take that one idea and engineer an entire combat system around it? Let's take a look at how the Iron Force was actually built.
The guy behind all this, the architect, is Jarrod A. Freeman. And what he saw was that most martial arts, they're too specialized for the street. A boxer is great at boxing. A wrestler is great at wrestling. Freeman wanted to create a modern synthesis, a kind of Frankenstein's monster of lethality, by taking only the most brutally effective pieces from other systems and rebuilding them all around that 45-degree principle.
So here are the pieces he bolted together. From Kyokushin Karate, he took the iron, just brutal body conditioning, and real bone-breaking power. From Aikido, he stripped out all the mystical stuff and kept only the pivot, the pure, efficient geometry of entering at that 45-degree angle. From Judo and Sambo, he took the Kazushi, the refined, battle-tested science of breaking balance. And from Muay Thai, the clinch, for absolute, smothering dominance up close.
All right, so that's the blueprint. But how does this thing actually handle in the real world? How do you train for pure, unfiltered chaos? Let's look at how they drill these principles.
Now, when you hear the word kata, you're probably picturing something slow and, well, kind of dance-like. You gotta forget all that. The katas in this system are the exact opposite. They are high-speed, intense, direct simulations of the nastiest, most common street violence scenarios you can think of. Ambushes, fights in crowded spaces, and yes, attacks from multiple people.
So let's look at this absolute nightmare scenario, a 1-on-4 swarm. The goal isn't to be a movie hero and fight 4 guys at once. It's about using geometry to manage the chaos. Step 1. You preemptively disrupt the first guy to create an opening. Step 2. You chain them together, literally using one attacker as a human shield against another. Step 3. You finish the last exposed threat. And Step 4, the most important one, extraction. You get out of there. It's about applying logic to a completely illogical, terrifying situation.
Okay, the theory is cool, the training looks brutal, but at the end of the day, there's only one thing that matters. Does it actually work? Let's take a look at the data from combat simulations and see how this system really holds up when the pressure is on.
Which, of course, brings us to the most critical question of all. After all the talk about biomechanics and engineering and chaos, does the 45-degree truth actually hold up when a real fight kicks off?
And what the data shows is really interesting. Against opponents who are primarily linear strikers, think boxers, traditional karateka, the system is just devastatingly effective. We're talking win rates in the 80 to 90% range. And why is that? It's because their own forward momentum, their own power, becomes the fuel for the 45-degree disruptions. Their linear attacks literally shatter against the system's angles.
But then, you see the other side of the coin. Look what happens when the opponent is an elite wrestler or a BJJ specialist. The win rate drops, and it drops hard. And this is where it gets real, because no system is perfect. An elite grappler who can eat a shot, close that distance, and just smother that 45-degree mobility, well, that's a huge problem. And this exposes the core paradox of the whole system. Its greatest strength, that absolute, non-negotiable rule to never go to the ground on concrete, is also its greatest weakness against a very specific type of fighter. An elite wrestler's entire game is to force that ground transition, to take the fight to their world. And once they do, the core principles of Tetsuryoku-Ryu are in serious trouble. And that really brings us right back to the beginning, doesn't it? The effectiveness of any art, any system, is completely relative to the problem you're trying to solve. Tetsuryoku-Ryu was never built to win a BJJ tournament. It was built for that 4-second explosion of violence in an alley. So the real question isn't which art is the best. It's what are you training for? Are you training for the sport? Or are you training for survival?